just when I thought I had free time. Just when I thought I had free time. They have to release this video. You have no fucking idea how this makes me so happy and pissed at the same time because oh my god, Angel Lord, but at the same time, oh yo, slow the down. But anyways, that's not the worst thing that ever happened, and I kinda expect this because Truth Amongst the Pages of Purana will explore Angel Lore anyway, more specifically, Nabu Malikata. Now, Nicole's video wasn't that huge of a lore bomb, but the more you analyze it, the more depressing this trailer actually is. It's so depressing and deep that I have to upload 3 shorts about Nicole's teaser specifically, so of course, we have to talk about it. As always, don't forget to give this video a like and comment so the channel can be noticed by the algorithm. My name is Glitchxcity and I make lore and commentary videos on this channel to keep you company. Hold up! Before we continue, I just want to let you know that this video is sponsored by me. There really isn't much for me to say here, but I finally opened my art commission. I am available on both VII and Discord, so you can contact me on either platform that you prefer. You can just type vgen.com/nakugitsune and I'll immediately pop up into your screen. Wow, magic! If you're on Discord, just DM me via VGen and I'll give you my username. Here's what I provide. You'll be in full control of the step-by-step process, you'll receive the reference sheets, no generative AI, and you'll receive the speech paint for free by your request. I always want to provide an additional service for you guys, and this is a win-win for both of us where you get something in return, while I receive your additional support to further improve this channel. My commission rates are currently at 10% discount until next month, so be sure to grab your commission before time runs out. Click my VGen link in the description below, or contact me via Discord for further details and get your custom commission artworks today. Now let's continue with the content. Now, I have other videos that I need to work on, but for your entertainment purposes, let's take this slow and chill so you can understand the deeper meaning of Nicole's trailer. I'm pretty sure you are doing something else while listening or watching my videos. Maybe you're folding your laundry or procrastinating on your assignments, for example. So, I'll do my best to keep you company as much as possible. Let's start with direct analysis with the trailer, then we can go even deeper as we go. One thing that I want to point out is how familiar this art style is. If you're a millennial or an early Gen Z, then you might recognize this particular style. After I did a little bit of research, this style is commonly used as an hand-drawn cell animation with a European aesthetic. Early Disney movies used this style a lot, as you might see on Snow White, Cinderella, and the biggest inspiration that this animation might take is from Aurora. That's just me geeking about art again, now let's get to the lore. Alright, as we already know, Nicole is an angel that came from Hyperborea, and she confirmed this herself during Act 3 of Song of Welkin Arc Conquest. With that being the case, she likely knew what Koitar and Voinen did, but based on the animation itself and based on an interesting tale that Nicole told us during her Meeting Point questline, Nicole might have played a role in that rebellion, but not in a way that you might expect it. We'll definitely talk about this later because this bit of the story is very interesting. As such, she continues to follow the heavenly principles' guidance without second-guessing it. Now, the Hyperboreans are, of course, terrified because when all this happened, the world was in the middle of war with Snibelang and Solvindagnir was already destroyed. Now, it's very unlikely for these people to know that Solvindagnir got purged right there and then, meaning it might have been a few days after that land got destroyed. We'll talk about this in a bit. Regardless, Nicole continues to follow the heavenly principles' order until, of course, this happened.
And if the hands of fate choose to lead this world toward destruction?
Now, this fun-esque line, yeah, Joshua Waters voiced this NPC, which is poetically ironic to say the least, actually has different meaning in other languages. Korean dubbing has no English translation, believe it or not, and if you go to the auto translation, it says Needle of Fate, meaning this teaser happened minutes before the celestial nail descended to Hyperborea. So yeah, what a good start, eh? It makes Nicole's words to the Hyperboreans even more depressing because she basically lied to her own followers and she genuinely believed what the heavenly principles did was flawlessly correct. After that line, of course, we see the golden threads falling onto this hole that looks a little bit like the Spiral Abyss menu background. As you all can already tell, this is the moments when the angels are turned into Seelies and the moments when they are punished by the heavenly principles because of Koitar and Voinen's actions. Interestingly, the angels told Nicole that the heavenly principles deceived them and their plans are not as flawless as they thought.
The heavenly throne has deceived us.
Our sovereign is neither all-knowing nor all-powerful.
We heard of this way too many times in the game. The first we learn about this is from Flower of Paradise Lost, Fossil Lore, Finale of the Deep Galleries, Yohual Tajuhdin, the Cataclysm, and even the Three Moon Goddesses, where all of them imply the heavenly principles' ruling to be way too extreme. That said, I find this line a little bit ironic since they were punished because of Koitar's rebellion in the first place, but we can continue this talk later. Regardless of what happens, these angels turned Sealies warned Nicole to run away, and on the brink of transforming, she was guided by a mysterious voice that allows her to flee from presumably Celestia. As Nicole made her exit, she gazed on Celestia once again and also the angel statues beneath her. Believe it or not, this place is already hinted to us in 1.0. According to A Drunkard's Tale, Boreas led his pack through several dangerous places, and one of them is this place specifically where it used to be inhabited by the Sealies. Right now, this place is filled with monsters. Yeah, scary foreshadowing, I know. Despite being a survivor, Nicole still has to offer one of the two options: her power or her wisdom. However, Nicole chose neither and she offered the third option: her voice. After she loses her voice, she can confidently say or think of anything that she wants. In this case, she said the heavenly principles' true name, which I will from now on refer to them with this name. I'm so used saying Fannies instead of Fannies, so if I say it incorrectly in this video, pardon me for that. Now that's the basic analysis of Nicole's trailer, and I can just end this video here. But of course, you don't come here for a typical analysis, so let me indulge your lore brain curiosity from the immense amounts of research I made over the past few days. If you watch my shorts, you might already know some of it, but there are actually way more than that. Of course, I need to put another disclaimer warning that this is my interpretation of how this teaser and my analysis goes, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. With that out of the way, let's do this. Like I said earlier, Nicole's teaser takes place in Hyperborea, more specifically the time when the funerary year started. According to Before Sun and Moon, Hymns of the Far North, Lama, and the Three Moon Goddesses, this is the time when the first descender, VII, waged on war with the second descender, which in this case is 100% Snibelang after he is corrupted by the Abyss. During this time, VII also cast the celestial nails onto the worlds because they are slowly being contaminated by Nibelung's power. Solvindagnir's case was always weird since it seems the nail just cast for no reason, but it seems it was cast because the princess of Solvindagnir saw a green future of dragon spine that is related to the abyssal dragon Durin, which in this case is still related to the abyss after all, and as a result, VII cast down the nail in order to purify the land. Based on what it is said, it seems Solvindagnir was the very first place that got nailed by VII before the other places got the same treatment in the coming days. This is an important context because as implied in the finale of the Deep Galleries, this is also the same time when Koitar and Södervoinen rebelled against VII. While the nails were said to have been cast at the same time, it's likely not in the literal sense and were cast one by one in a similar time frame. Wait, how is this connected to Nicole? Let alone, how is this connected to the teaser at all? Well, if you did Nicole's Meeting Points questline, you might remember her telling a story of the great mage Nicola Coco. Ironically enough, despite the character being played by Nicole and the Traveler, Nicola Coco is not talking about Nicole, but is talking about Koitar, which in that story, Nicola Coco is the first daughter of King Meowtres, Södervoinen is the youngster into which the gender will depend on the Traveler if you're choosing, VII is the King Meowtres III of Planet Meow, while Nicole herself is another character named Alinas, the second daughter of King Meowtres. The youngster's gender doesn't matter in this case because Södervoinen is canonically both male and female, hence why their voice is androgynous in Nicole's English teaser. In that story, Nicola Coco is an alien and the first daughter of King Meowtres, who of course is also an alien. Their goal is to trick the whole world to worship Planet Meow. The youngster fell in love with Nicola Coco, but she was then taken by uninvited guests, with Alinas, another mage, approaching the youngster with a contract to give them power. As the youngster reunited with Nicola Coco and planning for a rebellion against King Meowtres, Alinas took the side of the king, and the reason for her to help the youngster is so she can take Nicola Coco's line of succession. The story unfortunately got black screened and the youngster turned into a cat. However, the story ended with Nicole Coco and the youngster turned cat return to their first meeting point and live happily ever after in peace and quiet. As you all can already tell, the whole story is basically just the finale of the Deep Gallery's lore, but with 2 added points: Alina's and the story's ending. We won't get to the ending because I feel like that is obvious from the very beginning, but we'll talk about Alina's. Let's watch the teaser again. In the first half of the teaser, Nicole is the only angel left to guide the Hyperboreans, while the other angels are missing. The Hyperboreans are fearful that Nicole might leave them, as if other angels already left. It's also strange how Nicole is strangely calm despite knowing the people of Solvindagnyr are already purged, meaning her fellow angels should also have been purged by Phaenix as well. Besides, if this is Hyperborea, where's Koitar anyway? Shouldn't she be responsible for calming her people down? Scarily enough, Nicole seems to just blindly follow Phaenix's order, as if she doesn't know that this is not leading to salvation whatsoever. Nicole was also not listed in Azurelight for some reason, which I always thought that either Nicole is not that important enough, or she was not there when Koitar had a meeting with the other angels. This is where I believe that Nicole might be the second angel that Phaenix created and somehow helped Voinen to incite for a rebellion. So in other words, Nicole knew very well about Koitar and Voinen's rebellion, and she indirectly played a role in that plan. Before we get to the next point, there's also a similar story that talks about the angels as well, which surprisingly, we already knew the story of since 4.6 when the Imaginary Theater was first released. In it, Lofi told us a story of the Boar tribe that did terrible things and their master wants to punish them by having the tribe place their own things on a rusty scale. If they place their heads, they'll turn into vicious animals, but if they place their muscles, they'll turn into rabbits that guides people to treasure. One boar, however, placed both evenly, breaking the scale as a result and turning her into a mute person. That allegory from Wolfie is of course talking about the angels getting punished by Phaenix. Okay. Oh my god, why is the localization name so weird? Their punishment, however, seems to be more than just a straightforward punishment, but they are allowed to choose either of the 2 options: give up their wisdom or their power. If we link that to the allegory, the wisdom is their head, while their power is their muscles. If they give up their wisdom, then they'll turn into vicious animals, or in this case, they'll turn into statues. But if they give up their power, then they'll turn into sillies. In this frame, when Nicole seems to be returning to Celestia, a certain NPC that is definitely not Finance's voice actor told Nicole, what if a celestial nail is cast down at Hyperborea? At that same time, her fellow angels fell from Celestia and seemed to turn into sillies. It's also the time when she realized that Phaenix's ruling is flawed and is not as perfect as she initially envisioned. If she is Alina's, girl, what have you done? You really just f***ed big time because you are the initiator of this plan in the first place. Hey there, Editing Neko here. Now, after reading Wolfie's story one more time, it doesn't seem that these angels are turned into statues, more like they are turned into monsters. The thing is, I find that statues don't match with vicious animals because he could have just said more matching animals like cats or sloths, for example, because they're a lot closer to statues. That's just a small edit from me, so if I say statues in the next few statements, I meant monsters. However, we have to remember that what Nicole told us about Nicola Coco is still a fairy tale. Even though the story is talking about something that happened packaged in a different way, we can't take it into face value either. So, I have 2 other views. The murals on Nicole's teaser seems to show Koitar specifically and not just ordinary angels. The second mural is very much about Voinen and Koitar, and this angel is the same angel on the first mural where she guides it to humans. In finale of the Deep Galleries, it is implied that Koitar tasked the artisans of Hyperborea to create the face, so if this is indeed Koitar, then she guided the Hyperboreans to rebel against Phaenix as well. So, let's say if Koitar got punished, then Nicole might be the replacement as the head and leader of angels. Another few that I thought, and maybe the most plausible one, is that Nicole is clearly aware of this act of rebellion, and assuming Alina's is indeed Nicole, this means that Nicole is Koitar's right hand. Looking at how devoted she is to VII, this meant that Nicole was at first supporting this act, but she immediately switched sides in the middle of the rebellion. I would assume that Nicole might have talked to the Shades first, or maybe she talked to VII directly, so she ended up becoming the head of the Angels. So yeah, based on Nicole's story about Nicola Coco and what the teaser showed us, it seems that Nicole took the title as the most beloved and exalted angel. She got what she wanted, but at the cost of her fellow kin getting punished by VII. I think this is interesting to think about because it seems Nicole wanted to savor her glory first before returning, but it seems her fellow angels have to warn Nicole first in order to save her. Not only that, despite everything that Nicole has done, Koitar and Sir Devoinen still helped her in escaping anyway, which is just interesting.
Let your heart guide the way.
The world and fate can both yet be changed.
I definitely want to know how this story even goes, and assuming if this theory is correct, then Nicole's backstory might be one of the deepest stories we have so far. Now before we continue, I just want to let you know that I am deeply grateful for your unending support. Every time I read the comments, it's always a reminder for me that I am lucky to even have this job, and your own theories are also an inspiration for my future videos as well. In any case, I am putting up a target to reach 20,000 subscribers before this month ends, so if you can hit that like and subscribe button, you're helping this channel be pushed by the algorithm and helping me reach that goal. With that said, let's continue. At the end of the teaser, the angels are punished. We know this, and this is the result of Koitar's rebellion. However, I also think that this might also be VII's mishap that Nicole told us at the very beginning of the video.
And all because of a mishap even our creator could not have foreseen?
Now, this is something that I have absolutely no idea on because mishap in this case seems to be a strong word that Nicole used, considering they were cursed because of Koitar's actions, which, to be fair, she could be referring to that specifically. Unless there's something else that we have no idea on. The punished angels told Nicole that VIII is neither all-knowing nor all-powerful.
The heavenly throne has deceived us. Our sovereign is neither all-knowing nor all-powerful.
Again, if that really is the case, then there's something else that powers VIII, which in this case, I believe humanity is the sole reason. So far, VIII created the angels to guide humanity, and the game implies that humanity is what powers VIII with the existence of visions in more recent times. The moment their ambitions are fulfilled, the gods will receive something more abundant in return. It's according to Nivellet's vision story, so it's possible that humans that VIII created are like a stock, if that makes sense. Yahualtachutin refers to humanity as creator of miracles.
Farewell, humans, creators of miracles. A new era awaits you.
The Before Sun and Moon refers that as long humans are happy, so is VIII. Koitar's plans involves humanity in rebelling against VIII so they can ascend and become equals to them. And Nabu Malikatsa told Deshret to believe in the power of humanity because that is the greatest source of rebellion. It's been told many times that humanity is the source of rebellion, source of power, and VIII seems to be using humanity as their source of power. So the moments the angels deviated from that plan, VIII ended up punishing them. You know, the fact I even mentioned this makes the Saritsa's Alicia allegations even strong. Oh my god, I can't. The fact I even mentioned this makes the Saritsa's Alicia allegations even stronger because she turned visions into delusions. Not only that, she seems to be using the power of humanity and overthrow the Fae nobility. Generally speaking, Anastasia could very likely be a Fae, but just because they have pointed ears doesn't mean they're Faes either. I mean, Rukadevata, Nahida, Klee, and Alice have pointed ears, yet they're not Faes themselves. If anything, I feel like Anastasia is an angel, and I wouldn't be surprised if Monomak is also an angel himself. But that's just just a side tangent. We can talk about Anastasia in another video. Regardless, the point is the angel's punishments. It sort of makes sense because at the end of Nicole's teaser, she said something like this.
Even creations are bound to develop desires their own creator cannot erase.
This is a very interesting line because contrary to what we know, it doesn't seem their punishment specifically is just them falling in love to become a silly, but it could be them deviating from their duty. I say this because not all angels become sillies, with Yohualdajuhtin, Nabumalikata, Sibila, and Tsibai being a few of them, and Koitar is implied to still retain her form albeit extremely weakened. If you look at the existing sillies, Mr. Nine turned into a silly and she chose to keep her wisdom. If that's the case, then she might have deviated from her duty because of her love for writing stories, and often possesses people to use their body on. This is interesting because if I'm getting this correctly, the surviving angels specifically did not pursue their duty to guide humanity, but created a loophole that allows them to keep both while maintaining their duty as an angel. Nicole's case is that she lost her voice and she became a half-human as she now has a heartbeat per the teaser's description. Nabumalikata is strongly implied to recognize Teshret's feeling to her, but she was never turned into a silly or a statue, so she likely gave up something else that is equal to her punishment. If the Flower of Paradise Lost's lore is literal, then she likely cursed herself to never look at the heavens. Yohualdajuhtin and Sibila seem a bit more vague, so I can't say anything on that, but Tsubai's case is very unique because instead of her getting directly punished by Phaenix, she returned to Istaroth. It's almost as if Istaroth is protecting her because she is her daughter, which in this case might be not literal, and Tsubai is a special angel that is part of her thousand threats. But of course, Tsubai ended up protecting humanity anyway, and I would assume that Tsubai loses both but is saved by Istaroth. Regardless, you get the point. The silly punishment doesn't seem to be as straightforward as we thought, and it is easy to create the loophole. As long as these angels gave up something that prevents them from guiding humanity, they can retain their body regardless of what they lost. My brain seriously hurt when I made this section, but that's my 2 cents for now. I'm pretty sure they will cover this topic once the new update is out, so be sure to look forward for those videos. Before we end, this is the last bit that you can say is more of an interesting analysis that doesn't really cut to a long speculation. This frame is interesting because this looks like something you see in Spiral Abyss. As of now, Skirk is looking for Surtur Voinen, who is said to be at the very depths of that Forsaken endgame content, so we might get more lore about the Spiral Abyss eventually. Speaking of that, Koitar and Surtur Voinen are quite prominent in this teaser because they have their own mural. However, it's not only from that, but also they're voiced. In this frame specifically, you can hear 2 figures that are not voiced by Nicole. The first voice here,
Let your heart guide the way,
is voiced by the first angel, Koitar. This line is reminiscent of her preach in Azure Light, where she told the angels to follow their heart. As for the second voice,
The world and fate can both yet be changed.
this is Surtur Voinen. You might find it interesting why Surtur Voinen's voice is a bit masculine in English voice, but if you listen in other languages, they have a more feminine voice.
바뀔 수 있어.
変えられるわ。
都是可以改变的。
That's because Surtur Voinen is originally female, the Voyager that met Nibelang for the first time. When she returned, she cast her consciousness into a young boy, and this is likely the reason why Surtur Voinen's voice in English is androgynous. Next, this is just an interesting thing to note, but Finance's voice actor voiced a certain NPC in this trailer.
And if the hands of fate choose to lead this world toward destruction,
Now, I won't say much on this because it's just a voice actor doing his job, but I love how they ask him to talk about destruction and fate specifically, because if you don't play HSR, Finan is the main character of Amphoria's arc and is mostly involved in the theme of destruction, fate, and saving the world. Finan's name is very likely inspired by the name Fanis, especially both characters are related in the world creation, which is interesting to think about because it's possible that Fanis might take a male figure at the current moment and is a Kevin XP all along. Not only that, Nicole in Chinese and English refers to Fanis as he.
Nor are his plans without flaws.
And this is not the first time we saw this being the case because Pierrot refers to Phanis as he in the God's Limits trailer.
The god stays silent, as if the thought had never once crossed his mind.
Wings of the Silent Moon also imply that Phanis is currently taking the shape of Monomaque's figure at the current moment, which... oh god, you guys. Anastasia does have a love story that none has ever come before. Man, rage baiting Honkai players is so fun. Finally, we have a name revealed for Sumeru's ancient civilization. In Nicole's skill introduction that you can view on HoYoLab, Nicole is holding a class that I absolutely want to enter. Yes girl, if no one is going to listen to your yapping, then I will be the only one in your class. Anyways, underneath it, she mentions the name of the ancient civilizations: Arcadia, Langan, Delphi, and Patra. Arcadia is Mondstadt and is now known as Domenport. Langan is Liyue, which is now known as the Chasm. Delphi is Inazuma, which is now known as Watatsumi Island and Enkanomiya. And Patra is the more interesting one because this is a very new name to us. Patra is apparently a vegetarian pinwheel snack native to Indians, and with the list of names being mentioned to us, Patra seems to be the ancient civilizations of Sumeru and is probably the place where Nabu Malikata holds her authority. It's also worth noting that Patra, or Petra, is a real-life ancient city in southern Jordan that is famous for its archaeological site, so that name is likely inspired by this place specifically. Do note that Ai-Khanum, Gurabat, Tule-Tula, and King Deshret civilizations are not part of the ancient civilization, so Patra seems to be Sumeru's ancient civilization before it was turned into a desert, which I am inclined to believe that we will learn more about this place once Truth Amongst the Pages of Purana is out. Regardless, that is my analysis for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video and you can expect more videos coming very soon. Jana!